Hey guys, my name is xOctoManx and this is part 2 of my, let's say, risked territory whatever handling tutorial. In this part we're gonna create actually a new class for every territory. Of course we can set it up, and we want to make sure that our territory handler, or actually in this case our country handler, is able to talk to this particular piece by using the onDraw gizmos function. So, and we're gonna update the territory itself depending on, well, yeah, whatever we need inside. So let's start with that at first, and let's create a new C# script, and I call this one maybe just country, or you can use that just, or name this one just territory. Country in this case will be just an empty class which has to hold some data for us. We are later on able to serialize easily, but what we don't want is, we don't want to have this one storing colors or any unusual or useless stuff like game objects or stuff like that. Instead, we want to make sure that this is just taking care of names and all the other things, and what tribe maybe this particular territory is about. The first thing you want to make sure is you want to get rid of mono behavior and the colon, since we don't need those. We also don't need start and update in this case. It's just going to be an empty class. And in this class we can pass in any data, of course we like, and we can later on in country handler create a public field of type country and pass in all the data directly inside the inspector, for example, and talk to every particular piece directly inside the inspector and of course in the game as well. So we just need to store the data anywhere and go through it by calling this one as country and store that in a list, for example. Usually we don't need collections generic in this case, but it doesn't really matter for the moment. Okay, so what we want to have is a public string, and it's just going to be the name of our country in this case. So we want to make sure that every country knows its own name. We're gonna later on make use of it because we want to be lazy and want the editor, in this case Unity, fill in the data directly in the name from whatever the name is currently of that particular country or territory or whatever. So everyone has a different name and will be filled in automatically, so we don't have to take care of this one because, well, yeah, you can be lazy if you are able to use this one. Okay, so what we also want is we want to have some different kind of, let's say, tribes or, yeah, whatever you call it, we are able to set to a particular country. So, for this case, we're going to create a public enum, which is just nothing else than a list of integers, but we can name those with strings, and we can read the strings later on and pass this one back directly in the next window. When we click on the territory, then we can read out the data from the enum, which is directly sitting in that public field, and passes as text back. So we know, okay, this territory is held by whatever tribe in this case, and are you sure you want to attack those, for example, to take over the complete part in there, or the complete country or territory or district or whatever. So, and this is going to be maybe the tribes. It's nothing else than a list of strings in this case. So the tribes is just the enum name. In this case, just use whatever you like and please, but make sure it is yeah, you know what it is, and you get the direct connection later on to this one as well. Okay, so the tribes, I'm gonna use maybe some gangster names, or you can also use like Indians or I don't know, whatever is in your mind. I'm gonna do it with some kind of gangster names, so we can call those ones maybe gangsters. We can name them Bads, so for bad guys, maybe Nords for Nord guys. I don't know. Feel free to play around with that. Take care of whatever tribe you're gonna have, even if you have some striped rectangulars or whatever, then name them so the people which are playing the game are actually making or know what all of that stuff is about. Maybe we're gonna have some hunters as well. And what you also need is the player. So the player is actually, well, we as a player, we want to make sure that we have our own tribe. In this case, it is the tribe player, but we want to make sure that we are not able to attack our own pieces or our own countries, and that's why we need another enum for this one as well. So we as a player are, well, yeah, a tribe as well. So, since we need access to that, we need to create a public access point for this one. It's of type the tribes. So this name is the same name as this one, and we call this one just tribe. So this is a current tribe or only one type. What this will create is a drop-down list where we can choose a tribe. So when we now go back to our country handler, and here we can create a public field for country, but we need to make sure that country is a serializable class. What we need to do is we type in square brackets in the top of the country class system.serializable. If you have the namespace system directly in the top, you don't need system dot, so you can get rid of it and just type in serializable. It's up to you. So let's save this one and go back to country handler. And here I want to have the territory or the country in the very top. So I create a new public field of type country and name it just, well, yeah, country with a small c in this case. And don't forget to save the country handler. When we go to our first map piece in here, we should have, in just a moment, a little connection to our country, as you can see. And we can actually type in a name for the particular country, and we can say what kind of tribe this is going to be. So later on, depending on what tribe, what country has, we can color all the fields directly in the field just by that enum. So we just compare whatever it is about. You can, I don't know how big this enum can be, but you can pass in a lot of tribes and a lot of people or whatever, or names. And if you're gonna use something later on like the complete Earth for like some war strategy games or whatever, like the Risk, the game as well, you can just name that like, I don't know, Americans and Russia and so on and so forth. So you're gonna have several different tribes you can pass in over into that. Okay, so since we have that in here, we can also fill in the name data automatically, because we need the name later on in that particular field, in the territory field or country field. And here we need the name, and we don't want to make any errors. So what we're gonna take as name is the map name we currently have chosen in here as map 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So what we're gonna do, we create a little function provided by Unity as well, which is called onDrawGizmos. This is only provided, or actually is only working in Unity itself. So when you build this one later on as a PC version or whatever, this is not going to be built inside of that. So make sure of this. What does it mean is, actually we're gonna automatically fill in data into our country name directly from the name the sprite or the object currently has, and passes directly into the name field in here. And this does not need to happen when you have built correctly when you have built your game, because it will be automatically filled directly in that. It's kind of editor scripting what we go in, but usually it's not too hard to complete this one. So what we want to do is, in this one, we want to say the country name. So country with a big C, no, with a small c in this case. Country dot. And in here we're gonna have the name is going to be equal to whatever our current name is. So the name of the game object, the object is going to sit on. You will notice, maybe not, that you're gonna get another reference in here. This is happening specifically when we're gonna pass the object directly on here. What you can see now is, since this one already has been the country handler has been already on map 1, we don't get any null reference because it's existing already. And as you can see, it automatically filled the name in here. Even if I start to type in any data and press enter, it will hop back and take the map name, so the name of the game object which is currently on. And that's what we want to save time with. We don't want, well, actually we need to name those, but we only want to do that once. So what we can do for this one example, we can say upper region 1, I don't know, and this one will be automatically, or the script will automatically take care of this one, that the name is matching automatically this name. So we don't have any typos, automatically we set it up, and we just need to rename those map pieces in here. So if you have any names for your lands, your districts, whatever, yeah, well then feel free to implement those. Okay, that's about editor scripting, or actually just a small piece in here for easing stuff up for us later on. For example, if I would take the country handler directly and drag this one on map 2, where currently is nothing on, I will get a null reference. This is normal, and it's nothing fancy at all about that, but you can see we'll still do the work. Just clear the console and everything is cool. It's just because it will try to do that earlier before everything is accessible in here. So just get rid of it and clear the console and everything is cool. This is something we can live with, but actually it's working properly, and like we need it to simplify stuff for us. Yeah, we're gonna need to take care of what we want to handle the districts with. That means we want to have some kind of overview object which is handling everything between the districts, or between the countries in this case, and is taking care of which country will get which color depending on what the territory tribe is inside. So we will go and get rid of old color and hover color basically, and just overlay it with anything else. Or actually we're gonna keep maybe the hover color, but start color, for example, will be set by another instance. In this case, it's going to be our country controller in this case. So, and that's what we're gonna do next. But before we actually start to handle all that stuff, we want to finish up our country class. What we need in here as well is what is the specific country worth, like in EXP and money. So when we are going to take over one particular country in this case, or territory or whatever, we have the possibility to give out a reward. And let's assume we're gonna type in something like that. It's a public int, and we're gonna call this one money reward. And we can do the same for the EXP. It's going to be public as well. It's also of type int, and it's going to be EXP or XP reward as well. So with that, we can actually populate the public fields in the country handler as well with money and EXP rewards. So when we go back to our upper region, or my upper region in this case, and we're gonna wait until the compiler is completed, we can see there's a money reward and an EXP reward set automatically to 0 because, well, it's just an empty class and nothing fancy at all. And we can pass in any data for the money and EXP reward in this particular case, because when we want to attack this one, we want to blend in some kind of window, and what we want to do is, depending on what we have clicked, the window gets filled by the data directly in the country handler, or actually in the country public field in here, where we're going to read the data from. Okay, so we have the country itself is, well, rather complete, so we can close this one. And what we want to create is some kind of country manager, let's say. So the handler is just taking care of the inputs, and so for every field on its own, because everyone has its own polygon collider later on, and so on and so forth. And we want to have another game object which is controlling all the fields depending on what the names are about. And since we don't want to set this one by hand for every freaking level or every freaking part in here, or district, or whatever, or land, or country. We want to create a new empty game object. We call this one, well, you can call it whatever you like, but I call this one country manager. So we're gonna do all the inputs, or actually all the colors and stuff, directly onto the country manager. We're gonna store all the countries we're gonna have currently in the game inside of that, so we can have easy access to this one no matter where it is in the scene. We're gonna make this one public and not public but static as well, so we're gonna have to access from any point in the game, depending on, well, if we perform a click, we can directly call the country manager, which will hold our next script. So go to the scripts folder, create a new one. In this case, we create the country manager script. So this country manager actually goes directly to that particular game object. You can also go in and pass this one over to the main camera, but you better don't, because you want to make sure that everything is fitting to our game in this case. Okay, so let's open country manager in this case. Well, in this case, the country manager script, by just double clicking it here or there. And let's start to pass in some new data. So the first one is, I want to make sure that this one is a static game object, or a static class I can access from any point in the game. So what we can do is we can create a public static, and now we're gonna create country manager in this case. So it's going to be the same name as the class name. It's going to be the same name as this name, and we create just an instance to that one. So it's just the name has a name instance. So if we want to access this one from outside, we just say country manager.instance, and then we're gonna have the instance of that static script. So the only problem in this case is we need to make sure that the instance is going to be set to whatever the instance is. Otherwise, we will get an error reference since the instance is not set directly. So what we want to do is, in awake, we want to create a little call, and this is just instance is going to be equal to this. So we're gonna set the country manager instance to this particular game object where this currently class is on. Okay, so what we can do is we can now actually call from any country handler. For example, we can take a request to the country manager, which is holding all the data about all the countries in the current game. So all the little islands in here, or little countries in this case, no matter where they are, later on gonna get this particular piece in here. I believe we're gonna do some editor scripting for later, easing stuff out once again for the country handler, before we're gonna drag this one onto our game object. And for this, since we want to make sure that we tag all our countries with a country tag, I'm gonna create the tag pretty quick. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna select any of that map types or any other type in the game, press on tag, drop down and say add tag. Since the list is empty, we're gonna press on the little plus and just create a country tag. So make sure you write this one correctly. You can also name it small with a small c. You can also name it district. It doesn't really matter for me and for now. But for you it should, so you know later on what's going to happen. And what I want to set is this particular game object where the country handler is going to land on. I want to make sure that when we pass this one over, and I believe we can use onDraw gizmos for this one as well, so we can set this one automatically to the tag of district, in this case, or of the tag country we just created. So what we can do is, I believe so, this dot tag should be equal to whatever the tag is we want to create, or what we set this one to. So we can say this dot tag is going to be equal to this what was it, country. Make sure you have no typos, otherwise you might get another error in this case. Let's see if this is working for our upper region now, since this already has that particular part. So we have created this one already, and when we click here on region 1, it should be automatically set to country, as you can see. Pretty cool. So when I now would again go and drag the country handler directly on our new created country, in this case, this should be tagged automatically to the country and automatically named to whatever it is. So editor scripting is super helpful in this particular case. Gonna undo this one pretty quick and get rid of the null reference. So we can continue with our country manager in this case. What does our country need? Well, our country needs to know how many countries are actually in the scene, or actually what kind of countries, or who are those countries. And it needs to take care of what is every country telling us to be. So every country which has the tag, whatever it was, country actually, will be written down inside a list. And before we're gonna start the game, actually, or when we start the game, we're gonna take all the data, read the data, and make sure that we update the data, or actually update the islands or the little districts or even countries in this case. So with that said, we can just start over to create a new function for us. I believe we don't need update for the moment, so I'll get rid of it. Let's leave start where it is, since we need to make a call on start, so we can actually take care of all the data coming in. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we create our new function. It's just of type void, since it's not returning anything. I'm not 100% sure if we need this one to be a public one, but for now, just name this one add country data. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fill a list with the data we're gonna take from the game directly on start. So what we need to do is, at first, we need to find all the data and pass this one inside a list. So how can we find all the data? Well, again, as I said, that's where the tag is coming in place, and we have a possibility to do it on different ways. Some people will say, oh, we're gonna use compare tag. You can also use just find objects with tag. It doesn't really matter, I believe. Well, at least for me, it doesn't really matter at the moment. So what we're gonna do is we create at first the list where we want to store all the countries in as a game object. So it's type public. At first the type is a list. If you don't have access to lists because you're using maybe an older version of Unity, you're gonna make sure that you are using the namespace using system.collections.generic. Otherwise, you don't have access to lists. If it's inside already for you because you use a newer version of Unity, then just feel free to type in list in that particular case. So in the triangular brackets, we're gonna type in game object, since those are game objects we want to pass into that list and take care of. And it's just a name like country list. So this is my country list, and I want to already create a new one. So we say new list of type game object, so and open close those triangle brackets, and after that open close parentheses and close the line with a semicolon. So now we have access directly to the country list inside the country manager from any point in the game. And what we want to do is, at first we want to make sure that when we are in the add country data function, we want to pass in all the game objects we're gonna find in the scene using the tag country. So what we want to do is, at first we declare a game object array. So we store this one in an array at first. I just call this one the array. Whoops. And what we're gonna set the array to game object with a big G dot find game objects with tag. So game objects, make sure that you use this one with an S in between. Game objects, so we're gonna try to find multiple game objects with a specific tag. The tag comes in open close parentheses and in those quotes, and of course it needs to be country. And we want to declare, or actually pass the data back as a game object and open close square brackets as a game object array. Otherwise you will get one particular error for this one if you don't have the angled brackets after this one, or square brackets. Okay, so now we want to loop through that pretty quick. So for each, and then open close parentheses, and inside we can just say for each game object, and we call this one maybe just count or country or whatever, it doesn't really matter what we name it, in the array. So everything which is of type game object, we give it a name country. which is currently stored in the array, which happens automatically on start. We're gonna take care of this one. We want to in just a moment. We want to take care of that we do something. And what do we want to do is every game object we want to have in the country list we just created. So we say country list. Oh, well, here it is. So country list dot add. So we want to add an item to it. Open close parentheses, and inside we just type in country. And we end the line with a semicolon. So every time, or actually for every game object, we're gonna pass the data into the country list, which is the same name as this one, which is found basically in the array. So if there is any other data inside, you could also go with the variable var, since it is standing for everything, but we're gonna be specific for the game object. Maybe there might be some trouble later on. So we want to just get game objects and pass those over, since the list also just contains or is able to contain game objects. Okay, so, and that's basically for now the one we want to check when we start the game. So in start, just for now, we're gonna implement stuff inside later on. We just call add country data, open close parentheses, and close the line once again with a semicolon. So on start, this is going to be called, and the data is going to be set already inside the list. So let's check this one out if it is working. Currently we only have one country which has the tag, or maybe there are two. Well, no, they are just this. It's just that upper region one. So when we press play now, and country manager of course is called, we can open the country list and you will see that the upper region game object is already in the list. So we have direct access to it through that particular list, and that's cool because later on for saving and loading data from and into that particular country list, we're gonna have no trouble with that actually. Okay, so what we now do or want to do is we want to tint the territories or the countries depending on the tribe they are currently in. So what we're gonna do is we create a new function once again of type void. So it's void tint territories or tint countries. I just call it like this, countries. Open close parentheses, and of course a pair of curly brackets. So in the tint countries, we want to create a little for loop, which is looping through all the game objects we're gonna have currently in the country list, because this is happening before the tint countries. I believe that needs to be named like this. So after we're gonna add all of that, we're gonna call the tint countries function. In this case, it's going to be at the very end of after the for each loop happens, like there. So what we're gonna do at first, we call the add country one, do everything inside, add all the stuff inside the country list, and after that we call the tint territories. So what we can do is now we can use a for loop or a for each. Actually, it doesn't really matter for me and for now, but I use a for loop for this since it's easier to understand maybe. So we're gonna start to loop through the country list. So we say we'll create an integer variable of with the name I. It's starting at 0, and while I is smaller than the country list dot count, so the length of the complete list, actually, we're gonna increment I. So, and while we are in that, we want to make sure that we create one local variable in this case, so we can call every country handler from that particular country list's game object we are currently looping through, and make use of it. So it will be rather quick, of course, because the for loop is rather quick. So the player won't notice that we are doing that for every country. It will just happen in a finger snap, I believe. So what we create is a new type variable of type country handler in this case. And we'll give it a name, just maybe, I don't know, count handler. Actually, it doesn't matter, or just count, or whatever, or just handler. And we set this one to the country list we're gonna currently looping through in square brackets I, a dot, and there we're gonna get the component from the country, open close triangular brackets, and we're gonna take the country handler script from it, and at the very end open close parentheses and close the line with a semicolon. So we catch the currently looped through data. We're gonna get the component and pass this one or catch this one into the country handler, in this case a local variable. So what we now can do is we can create, well, rather a switch statement or a lot of if statements depending on whatever the tribe names are currently stored in the components of the country handler, and tint the countries according to this. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we create for example, we can use if statements. We don't have if else, just if, and we can also go in and return every time we found something, but usually we don't need to. So we're gonna loop through everything completely and see if everything is set up, and once we're gonna be done with that country list, of course we can back and go forward after everything is done in here. So what we want to do is, if the country handler, which count handler in this case, I just named it count handler, the count handler is going to be this one in here. So if the count handler, and now we're gonna request the territory, or in this case the country with a small c is going to be this one in here, the public type of country, or public field in this case. And what we want to request is inside is going to be the tribe. So since we are able to set the tribe by hand with that drop down menu, we want to declare what can the tribe be about. And what you can see, it will automatically, after you say equal, you can choose from country tribes, bats, gangsters, hunters, nords, and of course the player. And we go from up to down through the complete list. So we start with the bats. So if our country's territory we are currently looping through is of type or has the tribe bats, then we want to react to it, and we want to give it a specific color. So in this case we can go and grab or go directly inside the country handler and change the sprite's color. So we get rid of start color in this case, and tint this to whatever we like. So for example, we can use a color 32. We can use just normal colors. It doesn't really matter. So you need to decide this one on your own. I will show you the, let's say, a bit more tricky way with color 32, since we can input hexadecimals, well, not hexadecimals, but the RGB and alpha values by hand from 0 to 255, as you may already know from any other stuff. So what we can do with that is we set the count handler. Is it count handler? Well, yeah, it is. So the count handler dot, and now we have inside, we're gonna have the country still. We can react to everything we have in here, and we should also have the sprite. Oh, we don't have the sprite. Okay, so since we don't have the sprite, because the sprite is a private variable, we're gonna create a little helper function for this one inside the country handler script. So what we're gonna do is we type in void and call this one just tint color, I don't know. And what this is going to request is a color 32 type. We just call this one maybe color, and open close parentheses. And of course we need to make sure that this function is going to be a public function, so we have access from outside to this particular function. And what we're gonna do is in here we actually just set the sprite color to the incoming color, which is in this case just that color, so equal to color. Don't forget to save the country handler. So back to the country manager, we can just say dot, and now we should have the function tint color, as you can see, or method, call it whatever you like. And what we can pass in is any color we like of type color 32. And in here we can pass in anything, so we can say new color 32. And once you open close parentheses, you can see it will get or take 4 arguments, in this case of type byte. So it's something in between 0 and 255. And at the very end, it's going to be alpha as well. So R, G, B, and alpha. So red, green, blue, and alpha in this case. And that's what we're gonna need as an info for every color, for every tribe we are after. So let me just end this one. And since we don't have the data yet, I want to show you how you can get the data. So let's assume we're gonna try to find any color we like. You can actually go in maybe and select any sprite you already have in the scene, and when you're clicking on the color picker in here or in the just on that color, you can see there are those values we are after. Currently white is going to be 255 by 255, 255, 255. What we can do is we can now choose any color we maybe like. Also there the alpha, if we are liking the alpha, we just play around with that color right now. So let's assume the bad guys are going to be a red color. So I go over to that, to the top right, and if I want to have this one a bit darker, of course I can do so. Also, I want to make sure that the alpha is already set to the correct color I want to have. Maybe something in the center, maybe 182 or whatever. You can also check if the alpha values are not cool when you're using yellow, for example, or any blue color and all the other stuff. So go through it, see if alpha is fitting your needs, for example, and then just take that. So this is going to be the basic color once we're gonna start over the game or start off the game. And yeah, what we want to do is we want to actually remember all that values and type this directly as the alpha one inside our game. So since I believe hexadecimals are not directly working because they are of type color.rgb, I believe, we're gonna use this one with all that values in here. So we have 255, 0, 0, 182, and that's what we're gonna pass in as data directly in our new color to 32 in here. So 255, 0, 0, 128, as we have seen this one in the color picker. If we're gonna save the window or save the script, we let the compiler run, and we shouldn't have any issue with that. If we have an issue, of course, we need to go inside of that and change some stuff here and there. But as you can see, no errors or anything. So this is the one way we can actually tint the stuff later on directly when we like to. Okay, so the bad guys are going to get that reddish color in here. So the full color in this case. Now we copy the whole if statement. And the next one in the list, gonna get rid of it pretty quick. We can use the gangsters as next. So the gangsters might be some kind of bluish tribe, I don't know, maybe this one. So what we're gonna have in here, we can use 0, 0 and 255. And the alpha is going to stay the same. So we're gonna set 0, 0, and the last one is going to be 255. If you have any specific color in mind, like any orange type, yeah, feel free to go in and change the colors to your needs. If you don't like the low amount of alpha, go in and change that to your needs. So the next one in the list is going to be the hunters. I want to be those, just a bit greenish, since hunters somehow yeah, sounds greenish. Maybe gonna whoops. This is a usual error which can happen in Unity 5.6. If this is happening to you when everything is red in here, just start the game once and go back and just do what you wanted to do. It's a known issue, I believe, already. So, since I have a specific color in mind once again in here, I might want to go in and tint this one green, or maybe a bit more lightened or a bit lighter green. So maybe the player itself could get the full color green in this case. I don't know. Or maybe the player can get also everything as complete transparent, for example. So there will won't be any tribe anymore when you have cleaned the game, and everything would be, well, rather transparent once you got the specific field. Also would mark it as maybe not gettable or not clickable at this particular point. Okay, so gonna take this one, 0, then 255 and 0 at this particular point for the hunters. So this number in here in the middle is going to be 255. The last one is going to be 0, and of course alpha stays at 182. Okay, then the last one, I believe those guys are called the Nords. There we go. And the Nords might be some kind of orange or purple, purple maybe. So it's going to be 255, 0, 255 for a purple tint. So in here 0, and in here 0.255. Don't forget to save often once again. And the very last one, once again, is going to be the player. And then here we could just take any color, maybe white or black or whatever, and maybe a full alpha. So that means we're gonna have just a complete transparent one. I believe so. So when we're pressing play, the first one should be automatically tinted in blue. As you can see, this one is just the one we changed, but this one in here is tinted in blue because this is for the tribe gangsters. And the gangsters, as you have seen already, is the blue color we just created at the second place in this particular case. So blue is 255, so full color. So if this one would be, or let's play around with this one. If this one would be player, gonna play this once again. This would be automatically, well, red. Why is it red? Oh, it cannot be player since the player is wrongly typed in here. So this needs to be, of course, player and not Nords. So make sure you have everything correct inside as well. Now it should be, well, full color or full transparent when it's starting the game. And as you can see, it's full color white now. So what we need to do is we need to reduce the alpha to 0. Gonna save this once again. And when we have taken over basically this one, and this one would be the player piece, on start it should be automatically completely transparent, as you can see now. It's still there, but it's completely transparent. So this is maybe a possibility for you to unhide some kind of images or something, if you like to. In the future or in other projects, for example, just make stuff transparent with a color 32 option in this case. So you have direct access to all the color pieces inside, and you can do it with any color you like. Okay, so and for the overlay, currently still the color is on in the country handler is still on red, which is a hover color, and start color in this case is overwritten automatically. So what we're gonna do is we can basically get rid of start color in all particular pieces since it's getting overwritten anyways. So we don't need this one in start anymore, and we don't need the declaration. I just comment those out. Maybe we're gonna have to or want to use them later on for anything. And we don't need them in awake anymore again, since we got rid of that by the country handler or country manager in this particular case. So even, as you can see, even the player's territory has that hover over and can be reddished out. So we're going to have some kind of highlighting system with that hover color still. And we can also go later on and fiddle around with the hover color as well, since we want to automate that, maybe depending on what the current color of the field is, to maybe brighten the field up just a bit by the alpha channel in this particular case. So we might be able to add to the current particular color. But that's it for the moment and for this little tutorial. I still hope you enjoyed it, even if it has been a bit longer. But we will be back in the next one. We're gonna finish up all of that setup for all the fields, I believe. And of course, we're gonna finish up the country manager, since we have to do a bit more stuff inside as well. And we want to create our attack window where we can actually pass over data to and say, okay, we want to attack a particular country in this case, and take this one over with a chance or 50% maybe, or any percent we like, just as a placeholder. So I'm not going to introduce a fighting system. Well, at least not for the moment. Yeah, but that will be everything I want to cover in the next video. Thanks for watching the tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs this video up if you like it, and feel free to become my patron or donate by using PayPal to support me and my channel in the future. All links will be below in the description. See you in the next tutorial. Bye bye.